You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices with Vicki McManus-Peterson and Dr. Chad Johnson.
Bridge the gap in the oral systemic connection. And so we've invited Sharlene here today because she is an educator that helps implement CIMT scans into the dental practice. And that might be a new term for a lot of our listeners. It was a new term for me, but it's a really powerful way to help your patients get healthy. So welcome, Sharlene.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your history with this company and how you came about to learn more about it, and then where you are in the company right now?
Yes. So we have been doing, people in the Bell-Donine method have been doing CIMTs for years, probably 9-10 years that I've been in this area. We've looked at the IMTs and arterial age and for the
listeners that don't know IMT, let's
back up. So we're talking about arterial health here.
Arterial health. We're arteriologists.
Arteriologist. Isn't that a fun word?
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at heart health, cardiovascular disease, stroke, dementia, Alzheimer's.
And how some of that can play into the oral health, and then how sometimes the oral health can play into the systemic factors.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we look at things, for example, we go in and look at just the 2.5-inch window on your neck. It's non-invasive. There's no prep. You don't have to fast. You don't have to drink a gallon of water.
Is it ultrasound?
It's just an ultrasound.
Okay.
So it's just ultrasound waves. There's a little bit of gel applied to your neck and the probe. It takes about anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes.
Have you ever seen twins when you're looking in their neck? Like any babies?
Thank goodness, no.
No babies. Okay.
We have seen plaque the size of babies.
I bet.
And it's
too much bacon.
Too much bacon.
And, believe it or not, some of the plaque we've seen in young people has been significant, and they were vegan or vegetarian. So they thought they were healthy, and on the outside, they looked really healthy. But on the arterial age, they were very old. My arterial age at one point was 82. And
you're young.
I'm 54. And
no way.
Yes.
I thought you were like 37.
No, thank you.
That's awesome.
So
is keto diet, can that be a higher one? I mean, not as though there's such a direct correlation that you can say, yes, don't do keto diet. But do you find that people with a higher fat content or is it more this is what we're going to be getting into for the listeners, the inflammatory response of a fatty diet or fats in your arterial walls versus carbohydrates and what those are doing to your arterial walls?
So there's a genetic test you can do. It's about $40-50.
Okay.
It's I know you can do it through Cleveland Heart Lab. I know Quest offers it. I believe 23andMe is offering it now, but it's called a polyprotein genetic test. It's APOE. So in the APOE factor, there's a 3-3, which is a good diet guideline to follow. It means that you should stick to a Mediterranean diet.
Mm-hmm.
You could be a 2-3 or a 3-3 or a 2-2 or a 4-4. If you're a 4-4, you're really limited on what you can eat. So that is a good test for everyone to do.
Because it can help you choose what diet is customized for you, as opposed to just saying.
She may be the first person we've talked to that didn't just say, do the South Beach or do the keto or do that. She's like, test it genetically.
Then
figure out what
latitude.
is right for your body.
Wow.
Everybody's body is different. Even in the same family?
Even in the same family.
So my diet might be different than my children's, or definitely different than my husband's.
Exactly. A lot of husband and wives are different, So the other interesting thing is if you do the APOE test, there was a movie that came out a couple of years ago called Concussion. And they mentioned the APOE, and the 4-4s do not recover from head trauma very well.
Oh.
And so they had, they mentioned having children tested, especially if you had younger male children that were interested in playing football.
How do you get this test?
You can go to you can even go to Cleveland Heart Lab, their website, knowyourrisk.com.
Yeah.
And you can order the blood test yourself and pay Cleveland Heart Lab for it.
Wow.
And
that's an empowering shift
it
in
is.
America, right? Because we talk about access to care and healthcare coverage and things like that. But when you get to go straight to the lab and say, I heard this podcast and I want to know what is my best diet? And is this to prevent arterial? What is the connection here?
Well, if
arterial health in your diet.
If you know what you need to eat and someone tells you, okay, Vicki, this is your diet plan. You're a 3-3. So if you do this, alcohol is okay, or, what, if you want to drink, you can, but we don't encourage excessive.
Neither does my friends or family.
What if you're right? What if you're a 4-4?
No one encourages that.
If you're a 4-4, you're not supposed to drink at all. I mean, it's just like
your system's going to reject it,
and it's going to stick to the walls of your arteries. So, I need to eat a Mediterranean-based diet. And once you know that and you learn that, when you sit down in front of something that you're not supposed to eat, you change. Things change.
It's like getting an owner's manual for your body.
Yes.
It's an owner's manual.
I like that.
But
right? We have them for a car.
But a car's would be a mass production.
Right.
For this vehicle, make sure to, but this one is actually, saying your vehicle has a difficult left rear handle on opening it. So jiggle it a little bit, no
it's ethanol
specific for that vehicle, not just that style of vehicle, that make.
Right.
So that's one component into arterial health. And
then the arterial health is showing you the inflammatory process that's going on in your whole body. So it's not just about saying, well, how do we clean up your arteries? Just like how we say, it's not just about cleaning up the root surfaces of your teeth. So what? I mean, so then you have clean root surfaces. Who cares? Well, that inflammatory response does damage to collateral damage to the collateral tissue. And the same thing is happening, not just in your neck. You're using that as a window to see other places because it's easily accessible.
It is.
To notice what's going on in the rest of the body.
Right. And so if we see plaque, we can measure it every year, which is amazing to see soft plaque that all of a sudden decreases that lipid core underneath. If you think of, it's kind of a gross analogy, but it's kind of like a zit.
Okay.
A pimple in your arterial wall. They'll fester and fester. Well, blood is constantly flowing over that lipid stuff. So if it ruptures, you're going to have an event.
Yep.
So are you going to have a heart attack or are you going to have a stroke? It just depends on where it is in your carotid.
For an embolism.
So it's not like the cholesterol is laying down new tracks inside the wall, like where the bloodstream is. It's actually in the interior of the wall of the artery, and it's swelling and expanding. Like, I think the pimple analogy works great. I had cystic acne as a kid, so I get it. Like my skin just started. So your interior vessels are inflamed in that way.
The wall, the structure gets weaker and weaker. Where the point is. And so you're dealing with something pretty
like a hose that's been kinked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So your flow, your body is still trying to accommodate the flow. So if you have a flow study, people can see, oh, well, you have good blood flow. Well, you're not measuring the plaque in the wall. So that's where CIMT is different than a flow study.
And CIMT stands for?
Carotid Intima-Media Thickness.
So how thick are the walls of your arteries?
And measuring that over time.
Exactly. So we measure that. And if you have plaque, we measure the plaque. We also have a way to tell if the plaque is calcified. If it's calcified, that means at one point it was soft. And over time, your body has laid down to protect you, kind of like a scab. It decreases that
teeth,
lipid.
plaque versus calculus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're building awareness, right? And as Chad and I go around the country speaking, I was just talking to our good friend Suresh Goel, periodontist out of Rochester, and he was at the ICOI, International Oral Implantology, Congress of Implantology. 1,000 people in the audience. He said, all right, how many of you are seeing patients that have high cholesterol listed on the medical forms? Absolutely, everybody raises their hands. How many of you are doing any kind of medical testing or requesting medical testing, or even know that there is things that you could
available.
do as a periodontist, particularly as a specialist or a GP who's focusing highly on perio and implants that you could bring in the dental office. 1,000 people in the room, top early adopters, not a single hand go up. So this is cutting edge, leading edge, very, very, very new stuff. I have a feeling it'll be new for the next 25 years because we're kind of slowed it down. So what's an easy way? Say that I am a dentist or a hygienist and I go, I have a passion for the oral systemic connection and I want to be able to help my patients that are at high cardiac risk. How do I get Vasolabs or some kind of testing in my area, in my patient base?
All they need to do is call me and I will set it up and have Vasolabs bring a technician to see them in their office. We need at least about 10 patients, ideally, to have a good CIMT event.
Right.
We schedule.
So you host it like a community event. Okay.
We do 15-minute increments. So that way we have time to get the patient in, do a little bit of education, and then we do the scan, and then the patient is free to go.
Okay, so the dental office doesn't really have to learn a lot. They're not buying equipment. They're not investing in team training. They just need to know the basics of the connection.
Right.
Okay.
If they want to learn, I'm more than happy to train them, and I can provide them with anything they need to learn.
Right.
And I'm also more than willing to come and do education seminars with the staff or whatever we need to do. But I think it's important that we all refer to CIMT as CIMT. Everyone know what CIMT means and kind of what we're looking for. But yeah, and then when we're done with the scan, about a week or two later, the patient will get a report and the dental office will get a report.
So it becomes part of their chart now.
And we're collaborating.
Okay. And we can understand that risk factor a little bit more.
And
can some people play with their longitudinal CIMT study so their plaque buildup over time by changing their diet alone?
Yes.
Okay. Are there other factors that can help?
Exercise can help.
Oh, that makes sense, of course.
Yeah, if you're overweight and you lose weight, and weight doesn't have, I mean, I've seen a lot of people who were morbidly obese with no plaque, and people who were healthy on the outside, thin, skinny minis with no plaque. And a lot of plaque. It just depends. It's your genetics. I think a lot of it's your genetics, your diet, your exercise, your lifestyle, psychosocial issues. What's your stress level? You know, things like that can really affect it as well.
So how would the listeners get a hold of you? How can they contact you or find more information about this?
They can email me at Sharlene, SHARLENE .Dean, DEAN at vasolabs.com. My phone number is 214-642-3867. If they're interested, they can give me a call, and I'll get everything set up for them, and we can get this done.
That's awesome. And how much is this procedure? How much does it cost for the patient? Or?
For the dental office, they can mark it up if they want to. What we charge the dental office is $250 per scan. That covers our expenses, and that gives the patient a full report and the dentist a full report. It also gives the dentist and the patient both our recommendations and what we suggest for them to do. If they want to have labs done, there's different avenues we can go in that I'm working on now. I have several physicians. We have the ability to do labs. Just kind of, where do we want to go?
Well, I think it's an exciting next step for dentistry.
It's very exciting because dentists have seen plaque for years. They've seen periodontal disease, and then the patient comes in and says, you know, I had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago and I just wanted, you know, I need to get my teeth cleaned, or, you know, I had one story I'll share with you really quick, if that's okay. We had a patient a year and a half ago who called. He had heard of the book, Beat the Heart Attack Gene. He had heard of Dr. Bale, and he said, I want to get the workup because I need to have quadruple bypass surgery because I have all this blockage. Unfortunately, he had to have the surgery, but fortunately for him, we went in and did his oral pathogen test. I sent him the kit. I told him how to do it, and I also went ahead and ordered his blood work. And this was before we could even get a CIMT on him. We did a CIMT later, but he did have plaque, of course. But his oral pathogen report came back with all five of the high-risk pathogens way over the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have his blood back yet. And I called his dentist and I said, hey, we have a mutual patient and he has all five of these high-risk pathogens and I need to know about his dentistry. How is he doing? And the dentist really didn't want to talk to me. And because he didn't know about oral pathogen testing. Yeah, he was in Des Moines, Iowa.
That's where I'm from.
And
was it you, Chad?
I can't say the patient's name. No, it wasn't.
So
I would have been enthralled. I would have been like, how did you know?
Yeah, because I sent this report to the dentist and I said, so here's what we're looking at. He's like, well, he's coming in tomorrow because he's getting his teeth cleaned because he's having surgery. So he has excellent oral health. There's nothing wrong. He gets his teeth cleaned every 3 months.
So far as one regard, I mean, he might be telling the truth. Yes, he has clean teeth, but you're saying, yes, you have clean teeth, but you have the
invisible
bacteria.
pathogens.
That's right.
You cannot see it.
Right.
It's the same thing, right? Oral cancer screenings, oral pathology screenings, we just can't see it with the naked eye. So our old tools can be enhanced now.
Well, it's like
technology.
when we go to Christmas and grandma licks off the fork and just goes, I'm just going to, give this to the baby.
Really?
Well, I'm just making this up, but they just go, well, look, you can't see any germs on here. My mouth is clean. And we as dentists know it's just like, it doesn't work quite that simple.
Right.
Going from layman to dentist.
Yeah.
Now we're going from dentist to oral pathology lab, and we're just going, their mouth is clean. They have a pretty smile. I didn't even have any calculus to clean off. Yeah. Right.
But there can still be hidden dangers.
Well, with this particular patient, what was interesting is I canceled his appointment for him, I'm just going to say. And then I called one of my dentist friends that knows what we're doing. And within minutes, I had another dentist in Des Moines, Iowa, who wasn't really familiar with what I did, but was willing to learn.
Yes.
And so he did a CT, and my patient had 2 pockets that were the size of a quarter where he had root canals that were abscessed.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's that asymptomatic endo lesion.
And he had no clue how long it had been there, what had happened. So they did a procedure to open it up and drain it and pack it and put him on some really intense mouth rinses. What was really amazing to me is I had his cardiologist, his surgeon, his dentist all on the phone at the same time, and we were all talking about his care.
But that's integrated care.
That's really cool.
And he got cleaned up. His pathogens are perfectly normal now. He had surgery and he healed quicker in the recovery time. He went to cardiac intensive care for 24 hours, was moved to a private room. He went home 3 days after open heart surgery with quadruple bypass. And he is now running and walking and doing amazing.
That's awesome.
And but had he not had that checked, I don't know that he would have recovered.
Well, and how that's a success story is that you're not only changing that patient's life, but you are also changing how we as clinicians are looking at it, one clinician at a time. So it sounds like you lost one, that they weren't interested when you tried knocking on the door. And the other one said, I don't know about that, but I'm willing to give it a try. Now he's going to utilize that for other patients too, that you're opening that avenue for other patients that otherwise wouldn't have known as the patient.
Yes. And he is all over it because now the patient's wife was tested and she was treated by this dentist. And so he's actually incorporated oral pathogen testing into his practice. And, he's amazing now. He's just all over the top.
Very cool.
That's fantastic. Well, Sharlene, thanks again.
Thank you
so much for being our guest today. I learned every time I talk to you, I learn something new.
Yes.
So I really appreciate that. And hopefully there are hundreds or thousands of dentists and hygienists out there listening today that just get a little more curious, right?
Yeah.
That just check into this and keep that mind open.
And CIMT is a great way to do it. It's when you see the pictures of plaque,
right,
or arterial thickening, or you get that report back and you're saying, this is my health, this is my life. I have to either take control of it now or I'm not going to be able to get ahead of it. But we can reverse it. That's the key. It is stoppable hope. And it is reversible.
Yes.
There's a lot of hope.
Yeah.
We just have to know what we're dealing with. That's it.
That's really cool. That to me is the long-term issue with genetic testing as well. Is okay, so I learn what's my fate, and so I'm going to die either way on that day because they've genetically determined that.
Pass the booze and give me a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, see, that's fatalism. Right. This is giving hope because they're saying, okay, tailor it, and then you can change your diet, your exercise, or whatever factors you want to play around with, and come up with a better you. It's still you, just better. That's awesome. And
if you're at a higher risk for Alzheimer's in your genetic test, it doesn't mean you're going to get it. You're just at a higher risk.
That's right.
So start doing things.
That's right.
Today to prevent
it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Sharlene, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. No, I have one more question. I didn't know if you were going to allow me to do it. Bacon or eggs?
Eggs.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, not the bacon.
Thank you, Sharlene.
You're welcome.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with everyday practices.